24! God damn it. Alright, we're entering story mode. As I said, story mode, I do the story in a nice smooth fashion. Just gonna get through the information, read it, have a bit of fun, and see what's happening. So, entering story mode, here we go, everyone. Buckle in. A lot of information about to be happening. A lot of quote-unquote information. It could just be drivel. A lot of unnecessary drivel. Instantly with no words. Your tank is very powerful, General. It can level forests and people, but it still needs a driver. Your plane is very powerful, General. It can fly like the wind and carry as much as an elephant, but it still needs a repairman. You men are very powerful, General. Oh, useful, sorry, General. They can fly and they can kill, but they can also think. But now, such pros and cons no longer exist. Death removes all definitions and ideas. Oh yeah, I forgot where we left off. It was like hair, like Bronya went into like a memory space of Matushka's house or whatever, the orphanage, and we saw hair laying down here. Okay. What is this? There's much she must feel. Form, structure, and the cold wind like a knife. This is her birth. At that moment, she still couldn't associate that disaster that devoured all with her own existence. Have I become human? Oh, why does that remind me of a meme? Have I become human? This is an experience like nothing else. Just as a newborn, she had not chosen to come into the world into this world on her own and did not know where to go. But, unlike a baby, just moments after her birth, she already knows speech, knows right from wrong, and even understands her own birth. Very much unlike a baby. This is interesting. Oh, interesting. She composed herself and, like anyone else, became interested in the things around her. Weather, machinery, the sky, she understands these concepts, but she had never been exposed to any real substance. Her perception was strange in this way. She knows about snowflakes in terms of temperature, feel, appearance, and even the way they crystallize. But until now, she had never touched a snowflake. What's going on here? Oh, we get to play as Mrs. What's her name? Fucking Shariak? What's her name again? Fucking... I don't know. Having transformed from a machine into a destroyed machine. I don't think you transform from a machine into a destroyed version. I mean, that's fair enough. Sounds like a waste of words to me, however. This is how she perceives external matters almost instinctively. Matters can easily distinguish other matters, and it is the same with ideas. Never mind. Let me see your history. You haven't disappeared. When disappearance is an idea, it still exists, doesn't it? Mistalin. Yeah, that's true. I remember something like that. When disappearance is an idea, it still exists, doesn't it? I feel like that's just unnecessary to say that right there, right? Listen. No. Yes, it does, but what's your point here? In one breath, all information concerning the machine flowed into the woman's body through this technique known as transcription. She easily learned the story of its life. So where'd she learn this transcription skill? Like, how'd she get that ability? I don't think a lot of other people have this ability. You know, I'd say only one other person has this ability, but hey, that's fair enough. Assembled 4 years ago to prevent technical leak, its components were produced by 3 associated companies separately. For many years, it has only served Shixel and has undergone 3 overhauls. On the mission to recover the 6th Divine Key, it was destroyed by the excessive Honkai energy of unknown origin. Excessive Honkai energy? Yeah, this Divine Key you're talking about, it just seems to be right over there. Maybe this is why I was able to cross the boundary. Yeah, there's just a Divine Key here. The 6th Divine Key, is this what they were after? Just as she went to pull information from the object, she hesitated. Somehow, the bloodied weapon before her emitted an aura similar to her own. No, not similar. Opposite. No, that wasn't quite it. She felt confused. Is what relevant not the weapon, but the blood that stains it? She permeated the dried blood at the level of concept. Ah, now there's a voice I can get behind. This man. The Shariag blood that flows through you is able to cause Honkai energy in range to disappear immediately. Your blood is most efficient tool in fighting Honkai. Who would have thought this guy would still be getting a paycheck from Honkai after he's fucking done for, after he hits the dust? Who would have thought he'd still be getting a paycheck? While saying this, his eyes fell on a quietly running device. It ran quietly and efficiently in the room where she filtered her blood, the flowing crimson like a stylus to a record for much of what was to come. So according to the Overseer, when I encounter an enemy, I can't stop. As you'd imagine, it's easier to cut an artery than it is to fight yourself to exhaustion. But I won't let you do that until you've made some progress in Spear of Destiny. We can't give a transfusion after massive blood loss, as we'd usually do. The first step in Spear of Destiny was cloning this holy blood. But even if we were successful, I'm not sure how we'd mass produce it. And so, unless there was some great change, I forbid you to use your blood as a weapon. But you being the way you are, just stating the odds isn't going to stop you from marching to your death. You're still too young to know anything unusual about the Shariag bloodline, and yet you're constantly experiencing it yourself. Curse of Stigmata. This is my first time mentioning it to you, right? The Curse of Stigmata. Yes, unlike the Kaslanas that say the Shariag bloodline is a genetic mutation or strange information, the holy blood in you now, as well as your genes, are the product of my categorization and purification of this information. Wow. Does that mean Mystiline, or whatever, was born right after Cecilia got nuked by Otto at the end of the second eruption? Most likely. Most likely. That's kind of interesting. So, the Shariag bloodline, is, as well as your genes, are the product of my categorization and purification of this information. So, the Shariag bloodline is just Otto's creation using the Kaslana bloodline. So it's just, it's still kind of like not a genetic mutation, but a reproduction of it. Note that I said categorization, not optimization. I could completely eliminate the information in your genes that can lead to side effects. Not even the Overseer can do that. This is a way, but if I do that, you'll be weaker than your average person, let alone the strongest Valkyrie. Shariag Stigmata is more paradoxical than you can imagine. In all these years, you've never wondered how people of the same line could possess widely different powers. It means some can wield Honkai energy to be warriors and others can weaken it to be doctors? Yes, the Shariag bloodline is contradictory. For most in that line, like myself, the result is a little more than resistance to Honkai energy. You could call this the Curse of Stigmata. If I purify either side, you'll either become an experiment providing holy blood, or wield Honkai energy at the risk of your life. What does the Overseer think? Looks like you already guessed. Right, I expressed the gene for neutralization in your blood and strengthen your musculature. In your musculature? Muscular structure? Musculature. I don't know that word. That's interesting. Getting here took hundreds of years. I won't go into detail, but you ought to be proud of yourself, Cecilia, even if you see yourself as a tool. You combine two forces into one. Holding the Abyss Flower, you wield the power of growth and withering. And if you break the balance, maybe the holy blood will still work, making where you sacrifice a haven from Honkai, a paradise on Earth. Making where you sacrifice a haven on Earth, a paradise. Ooh, yikes, eh? But I fear it might reverse and instead become a Honkai poison when leaving your body untreated. There are always outliers as well, but for those, not even I would know what will happen. But this has nothing to do with what I'm after. It's just information I knew from the start. Altering her perspective, she pivots time into her in her perception and then perceives the snowy field once more. She went back not long before, right as the second eruption was near its end. I'm sorry, Siegfried. I lied. This time I cannot go back with you. I'm sorry, Kiana. Take care of your father when you're older. Holy blood unleashed at the cost of more than half of her blood, the strongest Valkyrie went all out to deal a fatal blow to the absolute calamity. Nice words. But as the outsider reading the scene right now, she didn't focus on the heroic deed. In this extreme state, her stigma did go beyond the Hersher of the Void's authority and briefly break the boundaries between reality and the imaginary space. But there are always outliers. But for those, not even I would know what'll happen. The instant the imaginary space was connected, the entire entity known as the stigma space by humanity first emerged in the human world. It first proved the descent of ideas as the byproduct of the stigma's curse on Shariak. That's me! True and real. So she was created at the moment of Cecilia's ultimate sacrifice. Well, because of the second eruption, what I just saw was also, if she had known more, she might be able to jump to the conclusion rashly and stay firmly convinced. But just now, the information she obtained was, with ease, gave her a sudden fatal blow. On the mission to recover the Sixth Divine Key, it was destroyed by the excessive Honkai energy of unknown origin. Or was the of unknown origin? I'm gonna assume that it was Shariak Lady Mistletoe that destroyed everything. After all, anyone familiar with the history knew not long ago the woman named Cecilia spread the sanguine flowers of redemption throughout the snowfield at the cost of her life. They saved millions of lives and countless families. In her final hours, Cecilia Shariak did precisely control the spill of the stigma power. The reversal that the Overseer claimed didn't exist, otherwise the millions of lives would have met the same fate as this machine. But if this was true, there was only one explanation for the remains she saw along the way. It was her birth. This isn't because of me. Her birth killed things. Ah. So, okay. Kind of correct assumption. Interesting. I'm not... someone once said that there is joy in disasters. It can be tempting to destroy everything. For ordinary men, this desire might be deeply rooted in their hearts. But for an ultimately unique stigma like Shariak, for its crystals and ideas... She turned around to look at her birthplace and her trail with trembling desperation. To figure out what exactly happened, she traveled a long way to understand her origin, but turned out she was unable to cure the disease from the get-go. She was the disease itself. I knew she was fucking weird. Listen, I laid eyes on her that first moment she appeared in the story, and I was like, damn, this fucking weirdo. This is a weird-ass character, dude. It's finally begun, Prometheus says. In a bubble universe that resembled a prison cell, she felt the passive hair flow through the core of the Hersher of Reason. Although she did not witness the process, this was a sign in itself. Bronya has finally grasped how to control those key nodes. Without doubt, Bronya was doing the opposite of what she suggested. By using her connection with the Hersher's core, she screened out and peeled off as much information planted in it by Hair as possible. Hair would naturally use Project Stigma to counteract it, but from Prometheus's perspective, Hair had no reason to be so hostile towards Bronya. What kind of being are you? Was an unanswered question she had asked Hair too many times. So it's not just targeted at the Hersher of Reason. Do you want to confess your past in such a seemingly unwitting way and make me attest to this match by my own will? Although there was no actual chessboard, Hair and Bronya continued fighting back and forth. Mistletoe Shariak and Bronya Zacheek had both met themselves on this strategic game. Incredible. I knew what that Mistletoe had as a direct relation to Cecilia. There was no way that the new character had the same face, same VA, and not just a faraway stigma look-alike relation. Oh, I think it was... That is the easiest assumption in Honkai history, that Mistletoe, or Mistletoe and Cecilia are pretty much the same character. That's beyond the most obvious thing in Honkai. There is nothing more obvious than that. Because I said it to myself. I'm like, this shit's fuck. I think when she was announced at the end of Act 1, I was like, dude, what the fuck? This is just why the fuck? And then it ended up being true. And then here we are. We shall continue. She walks through a door as we play as Bronya. Tit for Tat. That's a good song from the Cautious Hero anime. Anyway, so far so good. So far, it's kind of interesting, kind of, it's alright. So it's a stigma with concrete form. It defies common sense, but matches intel from May. The information previously implanted by Hare now took the form of a seed of ideas right before her eyes. Through previous verification, Bronya had analyzed and secured it. Now, it is time for the strip. What? Seed of idea. A man. Strip. Benares. Oh, I can use my own characters. Oh, this game is so good. I can just use my own characters. That's all I want in life. It's not as confusing as before, or am I getting used to it? I think it's probably just... Well, here's the thing, right? As we do this combat sequence, let's just discuss it for a second. It's more so that Act 1 and 2 are usually the setup acts, right? Act 1 and 2 in all of Honkai's chapters is usually the setup for the chapter. And then the last act is really where a lot of the information starts tying together. And so Act 1 and 2 is usually going to be weaker, specifically as we are in the middle chapter right now. Chapter 30... Well, actually, are we? I think we are in the middle chapter right now. Chapter 33... Chapter 32 was the start of the moon, Chapter 33 is the middle chapter, and Chapter 34 will be the concluding chapter from my understanding. And so, you know, we're really in just the middle of transferring into the concluding parts of the whole kind of experience of this arc. Once we get up to the end of well, rather, we're already at the end. But once we get to the end, it's going to be concluding information. The start of Chapter 34 is going to be a lot of concluding information, and a lot of just here, get to the point, and go. I believe, at least. But maybe that's just my kind of perception of chapters and arcs and whatnot. Verify. Enabled by special traits from her Herstro Vision identity, Bronya once again assessed the fragment in front of her. I've heard people talk about the cruelty of hell. A place of despair and suffering, with burning thorns everywhere and rivers of flowing sulfur. Every sinner is cast into the eternal flame and will burn forever for his or her transgressions. The greater the sin, the stronger the flames. It's a pain that transcends death. There's no escape and no end. But not without hope, though. Grey Serpent's the last person I thought would mention hope. Even fully prepared, he was still subject to heavy corruption from approaching the opponent. After a long time, he finally became able to open his mechanical eyes. Contrary to his statement, the snow falling down around him resembled ashes from heaven. During intervals of his speech, her eyes occasionally moved from the person in front of him to a window reflecting blinding sunshine in the distance. Amidst the dazzling light lurked a stalker. Grey Serpent had no doubt. The short distance made him curious, and he wasn't troubled. After all, compared with the idea before him, the Watcher was nothing. That is, if you don't mind telling me, this means another death for you. It matters not, the meaning of something can only become obvious after it's gone. Anyway, the sinners in hell, if someone would cry for them, the tears would drop onto the flames, and slightly relieve the suffering. With sufficient tears, the fire might even go out for a while. Which is to say, you also believe I'm beyond redemption, and you happen to be the kind that's unlikely to draw any sympathetic tears. You're also in pain beyond death, but unlike the fire, you're unable to either put an end to it or diminish it. You won't talk to me like this otherwise. The woman finally left the burning fire, after her trick was called out. So she was just standing in fire trying to kill herself? I don't know, kind of crazy. She instantly recovered. I thought you told this story for consolation. As a visitor from the other side, since you can easily touch everything's nature, it's impossible to keep something from you. In fact, no matter the means, intensifying your despair is in my interest. Only this way, another invitation from me at the cost of another of my lives can hold a better chance. That's a long way to put it. Slanting the umbrella to the side, the man reached out his hand. Join, World Serpent. You will get what you're after. Truth be told, it wasn't the first time for her to receive such an invitation, so, you know the answer. As for Project Sigma, I'm not interested. Even if it's the reality in the future. Do me a favor and leave. Until now, I'm still not used to seeing any life wither because of me. That's unnecessary. After being this close to you for so long, this shell is beyond repair. Just like every time before. Correct. And this is what I offer you for joining World Serpent. What you've desired the most. Death. I'm not really following you here, buddy. You're not the only one with a special body. Since I can always find you, it's not a problem for me to know everything about you. Such as, you tried to end yourself dozens of times for the never-ending agony. And I have the privilege to watch over half of your suicidal performances up close. You're disgusting. For me, the end justifies the means. And you, as a thorough hollow, you've exhibited an extraordinary imagination when it comes to killing yourself. You don't need air, but you plunge yourself into deep water. You don't have a concrete form, but you stab yourself with a knife. The reason I came here today is to end your fruitless endeavors and offer you real hope. Well, for example, you came too late. Sorry, buddy. What this feels like right now is that Grey Serpent is a door-to-door salesman, and Mistleton is just here trying to just say no to whatever the fuck they're selling. I'm come to kill you. No, thank you. I want to join my company. No, thank you. Please, no. Just kind of funny actually. You know I can awaken stigmata inside human bodies at will. I also know you had given it up when we met for the first time. This is exactly the reason why I can say no to you. I finally met someone who would. Oh, that's surprising. The best suited are the 1 in a million, and once they disappear, it can be difficult to find another. Without any sign, Grey Serpent raised his pistol to the window he previously looked at. It wasn't until now that he realized the Watcher in the Dark was the biggest obstacle to his mission. Huh? Bronya was in the window? Oh, yeah, true. Bronya was looking through the white window and... What? My favorite pastime, observing a woman failing to commit suicide. Yes, indeed. Grey Serpent, an interesting character. The girl's consciousness was flung out of the memory fragment. Before pulling the trigger, Grey Serpent's body was already fully corrupted. This naturally put an end to the memory fragment that belonged to him. But aside from the more puzzles, the girl got nothing. Just like Bronya, it didn't feel like she showed up in Siberia. It's more like she was born there. No wonder it's a snowfield here. And her temperament was completely different then. From her own experience, she made a vague guess but didn't dwell on it. After all, she didn't relive the past memories simply to know the opponent. Well, time for the next step. Okay. Strip. Bro, we just gotta go through all the fucking bosses that happened in the second eruption. Listen, I got nothing against it, but dude. Just gotta go through the list of bosses. Hersha of the Void next or something. Another Hersha of the Void fight in like the 20 billion that we've done throughout the whole story. Come on, game. Just using the strongest ice character to do this game, because Hersha of Truth is gonna stink, dude. I'm a predicted Hersha of Reason. Hersha of Truth, rather. Stinky dinky. Stinky character. Oh my god, it's Bronya! Something still doesn't feel quite right. Project Bunny, how many seeds of ideas are left? The mechanical assistant reported 16. Is that the right count? She got the same number again, and this meant, just when Bronya was trying to move forward, the surroundings were planted with more information. The situation reminded her of a chess game, only the opponent took more than 10 moves in the time that Bronya took 1. That's called cheating. That's why the game is rigged. No, it's cheating, Bronya, yeah. You're getting cheated. 10 moves in 1? What the hell? On the other side of the Shariag Holy Blood, rather, the idea that enhances the influence of Honkai energy. If she's the first idea the world ever knows, even though Siberia became a forsaken land, Shixel and Anti-Entropy should have noticed. The second eruption covered for her. The count reported by Project Bunny exceeded 30 now. Her disadvantage was massive. But To handle the Hershey of reason, she had exposed her own past. Well, what Bronya needs to do now is... 33 popped up as Bronya confirmed her strategy. Bronya has to learn her history and find her weaknesses for better strategies. Yes. Legend of Grey Serpent, 7125. Oh, more hell. No, don't. No way. I should be dead. Why? Siberia, the Forsaken Land. She, the idea named Shariak, descended again. In the deep snow she was crying, crawling, seeking any living thing around her. But, just like the first time she came to the world, everything around her became corrupted by Honkai and vanished after a brief and fruitless struggle. There has to be a way to end this all. There is no such thing that cannot be destroyed. I must try again. Of course, just as we've seen, the story ends when the one remembering dies. Why is Bronya on a weird peak? And yet from Hare's perspective, Bronya was always involved. Hare is in fact Bronya. A great question. How did she become a person? How did she create? Is the Honkai an abnormality she causes even too much for Honkai beasts? Fucking hell. Best DPS in the game, Hare, dude? What the hell? This just in. New best DPS in all of Honkai. Hare does 12 billion doing nothing. Damn, that was a lot of damage. Maybe if she becomes playable, she has just a damaging aura. Obviously, like everyone, reluctant to leave the motherland after the second eruption, this squad didn't tread onto this wretched land unprepared. Still, the increasing number of Honkai beasts far exceeded their estimation in this soon-to-end battle. Hardly anyone could survive. With a worried look, the woman stepped forward and seemed ready to leap down and help. But she didn't. Looks to me you finally learned how to handle it after your failed attempts. Spoke a man standing in the storm alone with an umbrella and watching the woman who left a trail of hell behind. Judging by his casual poise, he had been waiting for a long while. I understand how you feel. After all, you're the very reason these Honkai beasts came to be. I don't know who you are, actually, or how much you know about me. But if you value your life, step away. Her eyes returned to the battle in the distance. Even though she thought she'd learned not to attach herself to any strangers, I've measured how far your influence can stretch, and I happen to be inside that distance. A death is an entirely acceptable price to pay to come before you. He shook the black umbrella he was holding. The mechanical side of his face faded in and out of view. The world thinks the outbreak of Honkai in Siberia is the residual of the second eruption. But that's not true, is it now? Damn, we're getting a lot of information here. Siberia, 100% safe place. In general, just if Hare would fuck off, you know? Would have been a safe place, Bronya would have been a happy person. A lot of happiness would have been had if Hare just didn't exist. Another reason to hate Hare. Nice. Remotely controlled? You're not here. I'm everywhere, Grey Serpent says. But according to the Maker, the body before you can indeed be called life or even human. In fairness, I'd like you to also answer my question. If you're so convinced I'm behind everything, why ask questions you already know the answers to? Well, I came here looking for a candidate for another mission. I didn't expect you'd be my biggest catch. It's a shame it wasn't until today that I was able to meet you. Your existence is unstable. It allowed you to go unnoticed by Shixel and Anti-Entropy, but it also made it hard for me to find you. Whenever I was on your trail, you'd involuntarily disappear from reality and return to the world of ideas. The stigma space. Wow. Don't be so surprised though. I don't know much about it for someone that's seen the miracle of a stigmata. So you're still unable to stabilize yourself. Wait, bro, why she got that face? Why she got that fucking unimpressed Bronya face? I shouldn't even be here. I should have completely disappeared. Didn't you find me in the end anyway? Because you and I are similar. When it comes to self-perception, I'm a byproduct that should have disappeared by now, just like you. Except for my convictions in a great vision. I'm really just a businessman. Which is why I've come to see you. Business? Yes, I'd like to invite you to join the Jormungandr. If you're looking to use me as a weapon, you've got the wrong person. Beyond my own will, using me to try to hurt others will only end in you hurting yourselves. Oh, you must understand though. You couldn't possibly be a more powerful weapon than Sire. Let's ponder this. A lady that has just a death aura versus a guy with just a sword, right? I don't know who I'm more frightened of. Or who I think would deal more damage, but listen here. Anna Shariak, oh not Anna Shariak, this Shariak lady did a lot of damage to those Honkai beasts, so I'm gonna go with this lady winning. As far as I'm concerned, it isn't what you are that matters, but what you can do. What I can do? You want me to activate the stigmata in humans? No. It's true that you can do this so easily that it borders on divinity, but World Serpent has this technology already. Besides, you know the limitations of such a method. Barely anyone qualifies. So what do you want? Perhaps something you yourself think is worthless. At this point, the man fell silent and looked out at the distant battlefield. The shrill cry of Honkai beasts could be heard in the distance. The remains of mechs littered the pale earth, waiting to be covered in snow. It seems they didn't quite make it. At this moment, do you feel remorse for being unable to step in and save them? Or would it be better to see them die at your own hand to help ease the guilt? Step in and save them? Question mark. In the beginning, I tried to lock myself away where humans couldn't tread, but for some reason humans treaded. You didn't know the augment. You didn't know that the augment you brought about would lead to the steady stream of Honkai beasts. Yes, until I learned of the chaos they wrought. If my senses were like ordinary people, I probably would have kept myself comfortably imprisoned there. But whenever I reappear, pain, suffering, and death, those sorts of things kept appearing. It hit me that even though I barely existed, I was the source of so much disaster. And then I left and tried to make amends with my own hands. Normal Honkai beasts pose no threat to you. Of course, but you can guess how things turned out. I was able to save them from Honkai beasts, it's true. But in my presence, death always found them. No one was spared. Perhaps it's too bold, but I don't think anyone should be blamed for their talents. No matter how you put it, I'm still Shariak, don't you get it? She is the embodiment of relief. She could never just forgive herself like that. So that's why you wanted to awaken stigmata in humans, so they wouldn't perish in your presence. I would have preferred never having that thought. It's not difficult to see why. It was, in the plainest sense, a massacre. If I was born a curse, I made myself a monster by my own hands. What could you possibly want from a monster like me? What could you get out of it? What I really care about the most, you did not even mention. As far as you can tell, it was all just a needless expedient. And even if a precedent had been made, I'm still not certain you can really pull it off. So my life's true purpose should now be revealed. Purpose? An act. What you'll see as a way to pause people's stories, not redeeming those lives that they lost, that were lost because of you. But what I see is a miraculous future. Because of your unique qualities, I'm gradually dying. So come then, do as you once had done, transcribe my existence into pure data, preserved as an idea. After getting everything I'm after, I will show you in the way of words, I will show you in ways of words never could. The true Project Stigma. You know, it would be kind of cool if all these new sword-wielding soldiers are all just like, are they gonna show them? Yeah, all the sword-wielding soldiers are just all the fucking, grey serpents that she killed with her aura. That kind of makes sense to me for some reason. Maybe that's already been said and I just forgot it, but that kind of feels right, that all these armored soldiers with the swords are just dead grey serpents that she killed. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, investigate Hair's Past again. So far, I feel like most of that dialogue was pretty useless. That whole kind of spiel with that grey serpent, not overly informative. She can awaken stigmas, and at the same time, I think he's hinting at doing the exact opposite and sealing them away or something. yeah, it seems that one not overly amazing, but cool. Whatever. We got to see her deal infinite damage with her aura. I smell baked goods in the house. Oh. Oh. She's the key to Project Stigma? No. Or maybe even its origin. In other words, this record, which Hare called Grey Serpent 7125, like all Seed of Ideas here, was once a real life. At the time of death, all or part of their experiences were preserved as data by Hare. And now the information implantation she was about to perform on the Herrscher of Reason was much the same, but simpler and more direct. With Hare's game, she's more capable than anyone else and can use Project Stigma to help herself cheat. She turned her head. It was now difficult to find any pawns that existed in her image. She naturally no longer needed Project Bunny's report. It doesn't help that she's both a player and a referee. We're out of time and chances. She must find the key to victory or surrender completely as the Herrscher of Reason. Bronya, of course, wouldn't do that. But she had no way to fight back. Prometheus could do little to help against Hare's cheating. So she'll have to change her thinking if she's after the ultimate victory royale. Prometheus was right about one thing. Changing the composition of her Herrscher core would allow Bronya to flip the board. But beyond that, she'll need an opportunity she's never had before. Hare represents Project Stigma to an extent, and she has the other Herrscher of Reason's back. Containing only 300,000 people, but trying to encompass all humanity. Nothing had indicated a reason why Hare would be so fixated on the Herrscher of Reason. From a business perspective, only a seal was needed. Ah, right! A bit suspicious, she made a guess that would have seemed strange at first glance. To help prove it, she raised up her arm and began building various weapons from thin air. Not perfect, but it'll have to do. Here, Bronya isn't able to hold her own against Project Stigma. Determined, she began putting her strategy to work. Come on, I have a real shot at turning the board now. Under her control, the constructed weapons that had been spitting lethal lasers swerved towards her. It was where her body housed the Herrscher core. Bronya surrenders now. Pew! Alright, Bronya's dead. Fuck! Short format, hey, now that you've convinced me enough, I now want to join World Serpent. That's true. Another failure! For her, for me, and Bronya! Understand Hare's perspective is the quest now. Ah, it is indeed over. At this moment, amid her perception, Bronya's resistance completely disappeared. Amid her perception? The Herrscher of Reason's power was now completely in World Serpent's hand. Or so we thought. She must have thought I was playing with her until just now. But to Hare, when Bronya became aware of the game and made her move, it was checkmate. For her, she needn't fight against it tooth and nail. She could look back on her past without fear. And so her present self-desire for the Herrscher of Reason is solidified. All she ever needed to do was distract herself to reclaim what was lost. With Project Stigma, that was easy. Was I not thorough enough? Perhaps if I had shared with her this story from the beginning. But, holding back a flood of thoughts, she turned to see the geography of the memory. Siberia, the Urals. I hadn't come back here since. Just like Bronya, who had hacked into her own memory, her vision moved beyond her control, causing her to laugh bitterly. Even though the record is my own, I can only see it from the perspective of another me, just like that child. She thought of those she had once seen here, and the regret in her heart continued to grow. I thought I could bring news about your family, but even if I could. She begins speaking through her action. She completely cuts herself off from her past, making her consciousness a complete outsider. She knew the present her had no say in what would happen next. But, as chance would have it... Need to go now and continue my work. See you next time. Cares. Thanks, non-bye, man, and good luck with your work. The her who existed in this past also remained silent. Another failure. Once again, simply because she was cast into the real space, This human settlement was reduced to a ghost town in an instant. In the same way she did before, she awakened the stigma within the dying, trying to save their lives by hatching. And everything she did was just as futile. She had become somewhat indifferent to this, not because she was used to it, but because it was nigh impossible for sanity and hope to coexist. Hope would be crushed. When the process repeated itself ceaselessly, no one could stay hopeful and sane at the same time. But I must not lose my sanity. At least I must find a way to end everything or myself. Is anyone there? The consciousness is gone. She easily pushed the power through the heavy metal. When the driver's stigma was woken, due to his body's constitution, it didn't seem like genetic engineering at all. The result should be the same. Though she wanted the person before her to live more than anything else, she convinced herself she didn't care. As expected, in this dull tin can, a newly born zombie is trying to break free. Incredible. Come on, mistletoe. You can do it. Every time we interact, that turns into a soldier. I can't do anything. Watashi wa. Do I hear something? Nani? Here. Before her was a clearly temporary dwelling. It looked like a public building, but was capable of keeping out the elements. She silently walked into the room that the voice had come from, but it was too dim to see inside. Hello, who's there? She realized for the person before her, death was already imminent. She wasn't aware that there was a visitor. The name she kept repeating, perhaps it was this person who, when near death, believed they could deliver themselves from hell. So I'm to blame. Through the darkness, she gave her strength. Maybe she could have continued struggling a bit longer, but only followed by a quick death. For a ray of hope that never shines, I disturbed the victim's peace and let them die in the maw of monsters. She recalled the legend told since ancient times. If there is a hell, I'm afraid I'll be trapped there forever after I die. When she thought about an afterlife, there was a glimmer in her eyes. In the darkness, she sensed a hatchet on the table. In harsh Siberia, a tool like this can have many uses. Using it to stroke her throat without leaving a single cut, she wondered what angle to slice from this time. It had been tried long ago, but I could not be killed like this. As she awakened stigma in others again and again, though it destroyed her, she would continue to try so long as there was hope. And it was this obsession that caused her to overlook other peculiarities. For example, why was it that until now she had never heard the screams of those that became zombies? Nani? This is what I ought to say to you. The light violently turned on and I lost all vision. Bronya's mother? I don't fucking know. Anyway, put the knife down, yeah? I don't get what's going on, and I know I'm probably not the one to lecture you, but things can only get better if you live, right? Since that time, 3 days had flown by. Sure, it might be outside my profession, but I have more medical knowledge than anyone you know. It's best not to go out there. Really? I think my health is much better after meeting you. Last month, the snow was heavy and blocked the gate. We all went to clear it. I suddenly lost my breath and fainted, waking up after 2 days. She became silent, fixated on what she said. My health is much better. She knew Alexandra's feelings weren't wrong. But her body is still very weak despite the Honkai energy. It'd be pretty dangerous to run into those monsters I created. Though hard to believe, Alexandra did possess this quality that should only be possible in theory. There was no doubt that 3 days prior she had given birth to the stigma awakened. she pregnant here or not? She stayed a while to see what made her exceptional, and her physical condition required looking after. From her stomach, it was clear that she was not just pregnant, but only a trimester away from giving birth. So the others really won't be coming back? Right, monsters got them. I wasn't lying, she thought to herself. Luckily, she had seen the second eruption and didn't need much explaining, of course. Judging from her action and words, just as she didn't know much about Honkai, she knew little about anything outside her daily routine. She was clearly well protected since childhood. In this snowy field ravaged by Honkai, she was ultimately too naive. Fortunately though, or perhaps unfortunately, she accepts reality readily. It's strange, but of the two that saved my life, one would only tell me his last name and one would only tell me his first name. Could it be you know each other? Her name is Kokolia, an officer. No, I've never heard the name before actually. We have Second Eruption manga. It's not that I'm unwilling to tell you my name, I've just never had a real name before. How does that work? Do other people call you Shariak? No, I'm not worthy of a name. No one is likely to use it. But it is accurate. It's really hard to understand what you're saying. She decided this was something to improve on. Anyway, what do you want to do today? Not that I like you going out on your own, but if I can go in your place, I'm happy to help. Choto Mate. Struggling to get up from the bed, she groped around for something in the cupboards. In her hand were withered plants. It required stigmata knowledge to see they were cornflowers. They were dried flowers found in a nearby herbarium. They were better than nothing. Can you help me find a nearby tombstone? The name on it should read Alexei Syadvich Zaitsev, something like that. Place this flower by his tomb for me. He was my husband who lost his life in that disaster. Only his hat and pistol are buried there. But I go every week to visit him. When he went abroad, he called the abandoned cemetery the most desolate. Those there had really disappeared. I don't want that to be him. Noticing her uncomprehending gaze, she continued. Are you surprised I'm so calm? Like I said, I can't get too sad now. After all, it's hard to find medicine to keep my lung capacity. Or keep up my lung capacity. When I can... no, we'll talk about it again then. You understand, right? Interesting. Did we? I don't even think in the manga we get to learn about Bronya's father. Incredible. Nice. Gabriel Bogdanov. We don't know his original name. That's his Russian name. Opposed to his... whatever. This tombstone has no name, only 3 bullet holes. Damn, who'd have thought it was that one? Alexei Sidovich. Is that right? Maybe he was a sinner, but he always tried to help the ones he loved. Whispering the epitaph, she pressed the flowers to the headstone, and she didn't know why humans did it, but she thought she ought to. It was all vanity compared to transcription, preserving thoughts and experience as much as possible. A stone slab with a summary. Vanity. Just like names, so important and yet unable to store any meaningful information. Go back, I still have things to explain to you. Okie dokie. Interesting. This is kind of cool. We're getting a lot of backstory to this lady's origin. Kind of cool. Never going to be able to pronounce her name. I am back. Flowers, I'll leave them here. Sorry for the trouble. I have something for you. Something for me. The answer was clear. Her leg caused the quilt to bend. Several types of plants were piled up messily nearby. Do me another favor and pick the one you like best. Is this like some sort of ritual? Ah, that's how she gets her name, because yeah, Mistalin is a flower, or Mistaline. I don't fucking know the name of it. I'll let you know after the selection. This isn't the first time this has happened. The hypothetical character named out in Alexandra. Reaching for them, she chose the most inconspicuous of these plants, dried out, messy, fruitless, just as she had said about her own life. That one? Well, let me think. Let's go with Mistalin. Ah, fuck, whatever. Do you like that name? Name? What did you say? You just picked mistletoe, and I thought about how it sounded in different languages, and Mistleton sounded best. In some legends, it represents life, but in others, it connotes death. Connotates death? What the? Connotes? I'm learning so much English from this game, apparently. It connotes death. Suits you well. Well, the reason you wanted me to choose a plant was to give me a name? Well, of course. If you didn't want to tell me, that's fine. But how wouldn't you? How, what? If someone's recalling spending time with you, better Mistleton than the mysterious, incomprehensible Shariak, right? That's the impression I leave. But to me, names have no meaning. Don't overthink. Anyway, I've given it to you. Whether you choose to use it or not is up to you. Actually, because of something I wanted to, you know, bro, reading this when it's in fluid format is so difficult, actually. Knock knock. A sudden ominous knock at the door kept her from saying more. Both turned to the blizzard outside. The Urals were kept inhospitable by Honkai and Frost, so no life could pass. She easily guessed who was at the door. Alexandra, keep quiet. This man is very dangerous. The memories that followed looked somewhat fragmented now. There were the glimpse that Bronya caught in the match, which caused such fragmentation. I have heard people talk about the cruelty of hell. Join World Serpent, you will get what you're after. The best suited are 1 in a million. They will disappear, and it can be difficult to find another. Bam. An unexpected shot rang out. Thinking about the man that shot her, Alexandra seemed stunned. Right as the callous will was about to dissipate, his finger pulled the trigger under its own inertia, firing a bullet as she hid. Fortunately, after standing next to a living curse for so long, the other was close to his limits in every sense of the word. The shot only left a hole in the rooftop chimney. If only it was that simple. From the moment Mistleton calmly walked into the bonfire and allowed the flames to consume her, everything that had just happened spun out of her imagination. Nevertheless, at this moment, what she needed was not consolation, but to say certain prepared words. Mistle? I'm here, no one will ever hurt you again, I promise. Thank you, but do you remember... I had something to tell you before there was a knock at the door. I do remember it did. I thought after 2 days, a group would come for us. This was actually arranged a week ago, when the payphone still barely worked. That's when I got through to Maxim. He was a friend of Alexei's, and I asked him to relocate me to a place with better conditions. Have I told you I'm going to be a mother? Have I told you you're going to be a mother? I think a lot of people could surmise. One's birth shouldn't be taken lightly. I don't want her to open her eyes for the first time in a desolate place. I hate leaving without saying goodbye, so I wanted to give you a name. I hope when I recall this fortuitous encounter, I can call you by your own name in my heart. I see. This mother-to-be had a life of her own. If Mistletoe... If Mistle stayed here, anyone who attempted to help Alexandra would be cursed to death. And if that happened, she would be unable to maintain any normal relationship with Alexandra. Maxim, he should be a reliable person. Yes, he's my husband's close friend, and to be honest, he might be much more decent than Alexei. But as luck would have it, before he and his subordinates get here, I met you. It's alright. I don't know what you did to others, but I know you've been genuinely nice to me for the past few days. Just like Alexei, I suppose you two are bad people to others. To what degree have you guessed? She did not ask, but the other was already aware. Oh, Alexandra's like guessed what the fuck mistletoe is. Although the others here have all something, I have made it out alive thanks to you, right? So, Mistletoe, can you tell me who you are? I want you to tell me. She found it amusing that the other called her name, yet nothing about her, or yet knew nothing about her. Did other humans interact in the same way? She did not know. In conclusion, you can think of me as a living embodiment of death. She began explaining her history in the simplest terms she could manage. And once again, she loathed the accuracy of her memory. She loathed the conclusion that the recollections would lead to. In the end. No, take it easy. And a bunch of filler dialogue. An unbearable silence. Now one had little idea, and the other was in great pain. The minutes dragged by, and she finally spoke. I'm sorry, Alexandra. The child you expected could never have been born. Nani? For that child, I gave you too much power. Is it the stigma? You gave me a second life, but what does that have to do with my child? Because what I gave you is merely an extension of myself. In other words, the mysterious power that saved you should be attacking the child in your womb constantly through your blood. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep it from you. I've never seen a being like you, and some details were confirmed in the past few days. I don't even know. As knowledgeable as she was, the stigma crystal could not defend herself. This death-like existence was waiting for a scolding like a schoolgirl. And she saw it. Once the other figured out the whole story, she would not let her go easily. But how could she assume this responsibility when she could not take her own life? Based on your knowledge, is there any way to remedy it? I owe you my life, that's for certain. Therefore, the most important thing is for us to find a solution together, right? A solution? It's alright. Even if I become the price this child must pay to live, I'm fine with it. Nani? That's not worth it. For a being like her, it was obviously more important to permanently preserve the past, not the uncertain future. I must retain this, even if there's no future in it. Whose life mattered more? An embryo whose mind was stranded in chaos, or a tangible being that had left laughter and stories in the world? Even humans themselves, who whose perspectives naturally differed from this outlier, were often torn apart by this question. But worth? No. Is this something that can be easily measured by worthiness? Her mind was far purer than the so-called form. After trying to calm down, tears uncontrollably flowed down her face, and emotional, stinging words came pouring out. Must I take away her future just to avoid my fate? I thought you were a poor soul who was cursed by an unjust fate. But you're not really sorry. You still think you're a god. Who are you to decide the fate of any life? You. No, I. I'm sorry. She softened her tone. This woman, for all her flaws, would never hurt others unless it was necessary. I would trade my life for my child's. Judging by your reaction, this is the only way, isn't it? I know if it weren't for you, my child would have probably died with me long ago. Everyone's been through so much recently. I can't bear to think about what happened. I know those events were arranged by fate and thus can't be rejected or changed. I'll convince myself to not go deeper into them. But now, if there's an opportunity to change the situation, I want to seize it, so what I cherish can live in this world. Mistletoe did not refute. How Alexandra treated her child and how she treated Alexandra was exactly the same from perspective. The stigma, if you can awaken it, surely you can put it to sleep again. Do you know what you're talking about? Of course. If my body gradually recovered thanks to it, I won't be so lucky after this, right? It'll be back to not finding any medicine. After pushing countless lives to death with her own hands, she refused to let the only hope before her go. For her, Mistle, for Mistle, it was driftwood for the drowning. She could not allow the other to take the path to death, even though she had bestowed death upon countless people. Alexandra Pavlovna Zaychik. We see the world very differently, so I won't refute your ideas. Instead, I'll clarify your gains and losses in human terms. I admit, I'm the cause of all the problems at hand, but at least on this occasion, your decision isn't responsible enough. Responsible? For a mother, giving life is the humblest beginning. I don't think you've taken what will happen next into account. Her father has died, and you don't value your life. How will that child fend if she's all alone? Maybe you haven't given the world outside much thought. You ubiquitous Honkai, unpredictable people. Do you have any idea what will become of her? I don't make cruel assumptions, but the truth is this world isn't nice. She could end up in a gang and be raised into a merciless killer. But just after doing 1 or 2 jobs, she gets gunned down. Or she could be exposed to Honkai accidentally. She'd survive it, but the disabilities it inflicts would ruin her life. In the life you've given her is suffering, what would she think? You're right. Nobody wants to live to suffer. This has been going on for like 30 minutes now, just these 2 fucking characters. But maybe when I go on, when I can't go on, somebody else will take her in as a family. Or maybe after she grows up, she'll make several true friends who will steer her in the right direction. If all goes well, she'll find her passions and turn them into a career. Mistel, I know there's no point in arguing now, and nobody can predict her future, but it's still her future. Even if it's uncertain, it must have a meaning of its own. As you said, I can't do more for her, and that's my fault. But how can I rob her of a future that she may have? Let's get started, Mistel. In any case, you didn't deny you can restore everything. If this drags on, I might actually regret it. Regret? Of course, who do you take me for? An elder who's done living? I haven't done many things I want to do, nor owned many things I want to own. Nurseries where I can pick flowers all year round, a trip to Machu Picchu, halfway across the world, a diamond necklace, a new dress every day, the list goes on. I'm not the type to lose hope in the world. I know its beauty and I want to live, but... Mistel, hurry up. If we let regrets multiply, we'll end up killed by regrets. I'm just like you. I find lifeless life worse than death. The conclusion made sense. But she still felt confused, actually. Do you remember what you said to me when we first met? You can wait for an opportunity as long as you're alive. What made you think you can convince others of a moral you don't practice? That's the moral I gifted to you and your child, so I can't take it back. The conclusion still made sense, but she felt even more confused. The other called her softly, pulling her back to reality. Let me tell you another story about Alexei. Before we got married, he took me to the National Cemetery to pay respects to the soldiers who died for our country. A boring man, isn't he? I don't know why I fell in love with him later, but that's not the story. A national cemetery, you can picture it. Tens of thousands of people buried together, each identified by a small plaque and sharing the epitaph on a towering monument. Here, dead lie because we did not choose to live, and shame the land from which we sprung. Life, to be sure, is nothing much to lose, but young men think it is, and we were young. Mistel understood what the words meant. The life and death of a person are ultimately decided by their impulse. Life could not find its meaning, as with the lives stripped of everything by her. Yet that was exactly why she believed all the more that disregarding life and death was nothing more than a foolish waste. Alexandra, perhaps saying this will remind you of things and incur more of your blame. But you should know it's a miracle that you survived. Your life bears an extraordinary weight. Don't say that, ordinary. Life is unique and precious to everyone. But even the most precious things has its uses, and it will lose all its value. Just like now. Human life is a passing by the second. Whether it's for something more precious or nothing in particular, we're squandering it, aren't we? The stigma crystal had nothing else to say, for persuading the other was impossible. Forced to push others to death, actively pushing others to death, surrendering to death by transcribing the dead, watching others die willingly. Step by step, she came to where she is today. If she was a selfish human being, it was not a conceptual existence. This is so long. They've still been talking for 20 years. Oh. But they're only hypotheticals. If that's the case, I wouldn't have been bothered from the start. Even if she was cursed and demonized, Sharia could not refuse a request for goodness, right? She reached out. The stigma she personally awakened, the only hope she saw in hell, gradually lost its shine and became a silent genetic redundancy. How she wished her hand would be shaking like a commoner's now. Killing those who were unrelated to her, killing those who would have died because of her, and now she must send the one who was born because of her off on a journey with death a near certainty. She longed to express her discontent in a form other than concept. It's over. Nothing seemed to change. The effects the stigma had on you won't go away in an instant. I must leave before Maxim comes to pick you up, otherwise, no matter how many people he brings, they'll all die together because of me. Regarding the monsters outside, I'll do my best to repel them. As for the rest... Arigato. I just took away your nearly endless remaining years. But you saved the future. Please don't show that expression, mistletoe. I hope more than anything that when you recall what you did today, you'll be proud of yourself. You stand on the opposite side of life, but that is not your intention. At the very least, you respect life like a real human being. You still don't understand, Alexandra, but I won't object. Before we say goodbye, let's discuss another matter. They're still talking. Venice is no more. The best Greek islands have drowned in acceleration, but it's the having, not the keeping, that is the treasure. After burying Alexei's pistol with Cocolia, I found this poem and wanted to use it as my epitaph. But then again, not many people will remember me, so it won't make me look better or anything. But I have a new idea. Want to hear? Go ahead. However, just as humans could not reverse death, darkness suddenly erased everything without warning. Alexandra. She died in that instant? For the longest time, this stagnant darkness was what she craved for most. Whether it was for an hour or a month, it meant she could escape reality and stop hurting innocent lives against her will. Yet its coming at this moment was what she wanted the least. Damn. What's her face is dead. Unfortunate. That was a very nice voice acting from her, though. 3 months later, the imaginary disturbances once again released her into reality. It was as if fate was mocking her. The familiar tundras of Siberia had been decorated into a colorful paradise by life. It was the end of summer. The forests she passed by fell into dead silence. Although she was aware of her characteristics, the first thing she did was set out to find Alexandra. It was also at this time that the mysterious disasters plaguing Siberia became known. For the first time, she tried to leave her footprints in every corner of the Ural region. A lucky few had survived meeting her, but they were mostly traumatized both physically and mentally to the point that they could not live normally. They lived the rest of their lives in derangement and kept uttering the name Baba Yaga. But even after paying such a price, their efforts did not pay off. Not long after, on the Arctic coast, on the outskirts of Tixi, was the sacrificial ground of World Serpent Branch. The dark corridor meandered on. Since it was built, no one had ever come uninvited. Until today. I didn't expect you to come and see me. Another JoJo meme. Or rather, leave the Ural Mountains. You returned to the Stigma space for too long a time in May. So did you find a way to avoid me, or... No wonder you didn't hesitate to raise your gun. I saw more than one awakened around here. Though they're all children. I said I'm a businessman, I trade one thing for another. That's why I came. How may I help? I can accept your offer and join your organization. But you need to trade with me. Yes. But I need to make one thing clear. I don't have the means to avoid you. That also means, in this world, perhaps there's nobody you can't find. It's not that easy. But I guess who you're looking for, is that your condition? Yes, I don't need to see her, you only need to check on her for me. Why must you deign to trade with me for something so simple? If you want to take one thing at a time, be honest. For World Serpent, even if the other clusters treats us 10 times worse than you, you're still not our only option. So this trade isn't very fair. In that case, goodbye. When will you let others finish first? Although I find that unfair as a trade, I'll gladly help as a friend. Help? Yes, more than you joining World Serpent and becoming our colleague, I want you to owe me. Don't worry, I rarely make undue requests, and the day I need you may not come. Please think of it as a request to hatch something, you'll be good at it. It's a deal. You have a gift for business, it seems. I've become curious about something. I've transcribed many different U's. Are those numbers their names? Yes, including mine. 1904 means I'm an outdated model. I'm surprised you're curious about such a matter, though. I'm just trying to remember what I see in another way. Just trying. It's goodbye, 1904. Getting a whole fucking histography of this fucking character. A year flew by. The autumn went and came. The most merciless and merciful quality of law is that it repeats itself without change. As for the human she was looking for... Inscription, Alexandra Pavlovna Zaychik. As for the human she was looking for, all she saw was a cold tombstone. Aside from a full name, there was not even an epitaph on it. The only thing that soothed her was a white bouquet on the grave. It was clearly not from Grey Serpent. She wanted to write something on the steel, but no matter how hard she tried, she could not articulate her emotions. She finally realized they had only known each other for a little over 3 days. It's been 3 hours, maybe you should say something. It's windy here and my umbrella isn't as durable as you imagine. It mostly serves to accentuate my disposition. Is this the person you found for me? She did not elaborate, but anyone could tell whom she was unhappy with. I tried my best. She died before you proposed the trade, that's why it took me so long. It's easy to find someone because to live is to err, but graves are different as it concludes everything. This is not concluded. Is there a bug here? Is it just not telling us that she's okay. That child, right? She isn't buried here. I always see my job through. I've inquired about her whereabouts. It said that on the day she was born, her mother cried alone for the entire afternoon, seemingly grieving for many people. She values promises. You finally spoke. So do you want that child to appear before us or disappear into the crowds? If it's the former, I can do you another favor. She's alive. You don't believe me? Is it that surprising? What about her resistance? Is it like her mother's? No, she's not special. I'm afraid she'd die the moment she memorizes your face. Let alone spending 3 hours with you under an umbrella. Feeling sorry, aren't you? For her, having connections with you isn't a gift, but a curse. Aren't you wisecracking too much today? I thought we were old friends, or do you prefer those grey servants with newer numbers? You must think a mother on life-sustaining medication in harsh Siberia is unlikely to give birth successfully. It's a pity that the surviving child is painfully average. I managed to collect a sample of her metabolism. Even an experimental dose of Honkai energy could leave her with lifelong disability. Unless... well, it's not worth mentioning. How do you know this? You actually think an average person can become a Hershcher? What? Bronya's like 1 year old right now. Who knows? She fell into a long silence again. When she parted her lips, her tone changed suddenly. Grey Servant, do you know how many lives I have transcribed to this day? Do you know how many stigmata I have given and taken back? That number is nothing compared to Project Stigma. You're wrong. I'm not bragging about my accomplishments. I'm obliged to preserve the stories that have ended, even if there's no future in doing this. But after recording so many lives, I only discovered one thing. Ideas shape reality quietly, and it's seldom the other way around. A stigma can easily change a human, but I've never seen a human change a stigma. You think that person did it? I can't confirm, in fact, I can't even transcribe her fully. But since you said that child is perfectly average, Grey Serpent, I'm afraid I was wrong. Oh, too wrong. Well, that depends. The man shrugged, unclear if it was out of duplicity or nonchalance. I don't intend to persuade you, so... Grey Serpent, what will happen to me when Project Stigma is really completed? First of all, the 16th version of Project Stigma may not be implemented, as a colleague of mine is still trying to implement the original version. Of course, should you choose to join, she wouldn't know another direction has been taken. All in all, I don't want her to get herself killed by running up to you. You have the freedom. That's good to hear. By the way, your codename in the organization was given by the same colleague. Hair. I suppose it's coincidental. She doesn't know what you've been through, yet she wished for your rebirth. The woman frowned, making it clear that she did not appreciate the name. I won't hinder your system, but I'll only use the name Mistleton. Mistle. Well, I will never say that name correctly. You haven't answered my first question, though. The answer is what she wished for. After all, your birth is an accident. What exists here is an imaginary concept, not a real Stigma life. When Project Stigma is officially activated, as part of verification, you'll be given the chance to transcribe yourself, die completely, and be reborn. Unlike the commands to be executed on other objects. The results of transcribing yourself, she'll have the same form and similar abilities as you, but she will not be you. The curse haunting you will naturally cease to exist. She will know your past, but to her, it'll be a forgettable song in the wind. Rebirth. She remembered the dried specimen she saw when choosing a name. Here is apparently a better name for her. Of course, it'll be fine if she likes Mistle as much, rather. For the current me, knowing I have a chance to really die is enough. And before that, World Serpent has more than enough places to confine people and is fully capable of killing off Honkai beasts you spawn. Actually, you see, I'm still the old 1904. After being in contact with you for some time, hasn't World Serpent slowly learned how to avoid your influence? But the past hasn't really passed away for me. That I understand, if you call yourself Sharik, you'd never write off your past sins just because you found a way to rectify them. Let's head back to the organization, World Serpent, such as the first job. You can't wait another minute. Well, of course, because it's not any job. World Serpent needs someone to go to the mouth of the Yukon River promptly to inspect similar existence. Existence to whom? To you. You've always been active in Siberia, so you may not know much about the Honkai outside, but there is an abnormally stubborn being among the Hershers who resembles you. I'm not interested. Hear me out. It's not too late to reject after. In reality, because there was an exemplar like him in the past, we immediately tried to recruit you when we discovered you. Was he also a heartless killer, an abhorrent monster? Not at all. In contrast, he was widely admired and even became a form of a spiritual legacy. You should hear me out before you say how dare he, don't you think? Who are you talking about? He's the same as you, but he has the human's name, but most of the time people call him... that's how Welt Joyce is connected. What? Sure. Welt Joyce is similar to Hare? An idea? The AE Sovereign Herrscher of Reason. Wow. That was so long drawn out, I'm sorry to say. This is a lot of drawn out information. The past ended abruptly. Yet to the person watching all this, it was an unexpected halt. Looking around, this was still the place where she had unraveled her mind. But as someone long familiar with this part of history, she knew that there was still some codes and interludes before the true end of this story. The memory space has been broken from within. Because of the Herrscher of the Void? No, it's not. Like response to her words, the Herrscher core forcefully fused by the power of Project Stigma flashed a ray of crimson and light. Yet... I see. This is truly a bold attempt. Hair raised her head, and where her eyes stopped, the fracture in imaginary space slowly extended. Welcome back, Bronya Zajczyk. Oh, welcome back, Bronya. After killing yourself, you're back. The girl who had just surrendered finally returned to reality. As expected, the core already belongs to you. No, it belongs to everything about Project Stigma. And you're deliberately emphasizing the difference between the Herrscher of Reason and me. That's right. I'm complimenting you personally, not the Herrscher of Reason. Furthermore, you no longer have to take on that identity now, right? Bronya still wants to reclaim the Herrscher of Reason's power. But if Bronya continues to drag it out with you like that, there's no way Bronya can win. If seen as a game of chess, the most rational move would be to destroy this space and overturn the chessboard. And if it's impossible to do that now, then it's best to surrender immediately and divert the battle, to prevent wasting any more time. So by bombardment, Bronya broke all connections with the core and temporarily gave up the Herrscher of Reason's authority. And because of that, Bronya escaped from the restraints of this specialized space as a normal person. But you resisted for so long, simply to stop me from taking everything of the Herrscher of Reason away, no? Since you're using Project Stigma's power to play dirty, returning to reality is the only way now. And if a person can't accept losing something, then he does not actually possess the ability to protect that something. That's indeed a mistake that I would have easily made in the past. Alright, more or less, you also know what kind of existence I am. To create the same kind, that is why Project Stigma needs me. Simple as that. Obviously that was a lie, but the girl before her did not know of the relationship between her and her mother and Hare, and so she could not suspect that reason. Thanks, game. I've always wanted to help all of you, true, I truly do, but once we touch upon the crux of the issue, stopping Project Stigma, you definitely won't give in. Even so, Bronya still can understand why you're so persistent solely about the Herrscher of Reason. What if I said it is out of envy? The very first Herrscher reason, Welt Joyce, his existence was similar to mine, but he received boundless admiration and even became a form of spiritual legacy. Completely different from how I was in the past. I detest that curse that had plagued me since birth. I want to know how my kind was liberated. I want to know how my kind has liberated himself from an agony beyond death, how he repaired his wings in hell and soared again. Do you know now? I do, and because I do, I feel disappointed. It may sound inappropriate, but that's truly how I feel at the moment. The Herrscher reason is nothing more than this. Do not misunderstand, I respect him. Today is the day that the divine tyrant shall be devoured. He put no shame to the title of a hero. He was an excellent human. But it is precisely because of this, that to me his existence is ironically nothing more than this. He did not liberate himself from the pain I once felt. The only difference between us was that he was bestowed with a gift upon birth, not a curse. What's truly important are the decisions he made, not the appearance he took in this world. Of course I understand that, but that's not the answer that I want. Sorry, has the writing gone to shit? What do you mean? I understand that is a very logical argument you provide there, Bronya, but I do not care. Well, fair enough, I guess. Fair enough, I just don't care about your hair. You had this like 2-hour fucking monologue about your sad background and, you know, your connection to Alexandra, but now that you're being a weirdo, don't care about you. To you, how many of my decisions could have been seen as mistakes? And in the end, how did they turn out? Although this may sound arrogant, but what I meant was, I am the same type of existence as the finality you all know of. He truly wanted to embrace humanity, yet he became an undefiable finality for the world. You've witnessed the calamity I caused, since the past me is already sinful in the world's eyes, then to stop finality Project Sigma is the only correct answer. I know that the Schicksal and Anti-Entropy have plans that can endure this, but forgive my candor, those are but wayward methods that encourage humans to fight endlessly against Honkai. Then, in comparison to how I was in the past, what's the difference? Bronya understands. Bronya fully understands. If you want to reserve Project Sigma before Kevin, you'll have to go through me. If you see this as a stage clear game, by difficult, that is true. But if you're talking about our attitudes, I'm afraid I'm no softer than the Sire. So what do you plan to do next? Successfully return to reality, that's worthy of praise, but at the same time, you'll lose the only power that you can rely on. A crafty glint suddenly flashed through the girl's eyes. Before considering that, since you've already completed taking the Herrscher's authority, you can return the remainder of Bronya. You can return the remainder to Bronya. Remainders? After some thought, she understood what she meant and looked toward the dim core floating between them. You mean this crystal? Sure, take it. It's a Sarira left behind by a noble hero. It should be kept safely. Stepping forward, the girl took the momentous crystal back long ago, yet they constantly imposed definitions on the girl, but today, it's but a lifeless object. Just as the word Sarira connotes, is it maybe meant to be connotates? Connotes. It's only a keepsake now. Even if I wanted to return the Herrscher's authority to you, it's impossible to do that anymore. As you can see, the 300,000 thoughts that make up the Herrscher of Reason have already fused into Project Sigma. They can only become seeds of ideas, but can never gather back inside this core. Bronya understands, but that's not important. Bronya just needs a kind of symbol. Actually, it's not just you. Bronya also feels curious about how the Herrscher of Reason exists. Attaining this legacy does not mean that Bronya truly understands this concept. And on the other hand, the more important thing is, if Bronya had shown how important the core is to me, it wouldn't be so easy to get it back now, would it? Important! At this moment, she suddenly recalled something. Bronya chose a despairing method to escape those memories. That was the truth. But in that case, when she returned to reality, where did that ray of light that instantly glowed from the shriveled core come from? Yeah, fair enough. Pulls out the star Ian did. Fuck, fair enough, dude. Subarashi, dude. Simulated metamorphosis. I believe Prometheus said that. Regardless, after receiving their acknowledgement, you are now part of the cluster of consciousness. After claiming the core, although there's only one of the 300,000 of its past powers left, but by poverty, but by property, you are still the authentic Herstra of Reason. She looked at the weapon that appeared in the girl's hand. That was the greatest proof of what she said. This is simply what Mr. Yang did before, leaving mechanical memory inside his own body using the distributed construct of the core. Even if the powers are trivial to begin with, thoughts can rebuild within us. But even if you say that, in terms of power, you haven't grown at all. Indeed, if Bronya had to fight against you, this much is probably insufficient, but practically speaking, it looks like you made another poor judgment. Since you're so courteous to Bronya, I hope you'll welcome them too. As she spoke, the imperceptible space fracture began to extend. After she thoroughly understood the threads, she could tear the net that trapped everyone in with her trivial yet familiar authority. Bronya Onechan. Oh my god, the squad rocks up. Oh, hello there. So you've been tricking me up until now. You've been tricking me. Fine, it's 1 against 3 again. People say the same move won't work twice, but I'm out of ideas. Oh, you don't actually have to act so modest there. You exploited Project Sigma so you could play dirty. I believe our only chance of winning is to crush you while Kevin is sealed. Just wait a second there, Mei Onechan. The pseudo-black hole is long gone. Kevin, he should have left the ruins. Ooh, Fuhua. Fuhua and Herstra of Sentience have been in the black hole for too long. They're still recovering. Kiana Mei, can you please go look after Fu? Bronya can take care of the battle here, and this is extremely important. Even if Kevin won't show up, now's not the time to act on your emotions. Bronya can assure you that she just found the sure win strategy. But the prerequisite is Bronya must fight alone. Alright, cool. Tony Kaku. Given the situation, Bronya hopes whatever happens next only happens between me and her. 2 Herstra of reasons that are disparate in substance and form. Even if I'm just a snatcher. Even if you're just a snatcher. So you're planning to take on 300,000 people and even the entire Project Stigma alone, and you believe you'll win? Yep. The previous attempts taught Bronya one thing. For Herstra of reason, 1 is the same as 300,000. The reason Mr. Yang and Bronya had difficulty controlling 300,000's minds is that we're in awe of them from the start. Bronya isn't saying we shouldn't hold those minds in awe. On the contrary, it is because we are in awe of them and the history of the Herstra of reason, we must treat them as ordinary power that can conquer, or that we can conquer in practice. Well, Joyce, Joachim Yang, and Bronya Zaechik, each of us is not only one of the 300,000, but also the 300,000 combined. The name of the Herstra of Reason has been passed down to this day because of its power, blah, blah, blah. Oh, just get to the point! Listen, we know who the Herstra of Reason is. You're just 300,000 people, and you're not 300,000 people. You're just... Alright, nice. What you snatched was only the superficial form. Are you saying all of my previous arrangements are pointless? That's interesting. You'll see for yourself after we fight. I will. But I need to remind you, you only saw me being forced into hurting others in the past. That curse is no more. But this brand new body, this power that can easily connect Stigma and reality, will not lose to a Herstra. Looks like you don't see it. The one challenging you right now isn't the Herstra of Reason, but Bronya Zaechik. What a fucking line. Now for both of us, it all comes down to this battle. I'm just gonna say that was a cringe line. You're not fighting the Herstra of Reason, you're fighting Bronya Zaechik. Oh. Fucking hell. When one seeks greater truth, it lies behind first glance, though beware of utter ruth. As origin or finality show nothing but askance. Askance means giving looks of disapproval. That's true and real. Oh, okay, time for a boss fight, mate. We've always done it on hard, but I've been warned, I believe by Herstra, Welcome to the stream, host Riviata. I hope you have a great day, and everyone else, hope you're enjoying lore at this point, and hope you're all having great evenings. We've always done it on hard, but I've been warned that this is like a super long fight. I think I'm still gonna do it on hard, just because we got time to spare. Might as well give it a few goes. So I think we'll still do it on hard, to be honest. I got no disposition to doing it on hard, because I am an elite gamer. So here we go. Now, for people who want more lore, you guys can read. I'm doing combat at this point, so I may not catch everything that's said. Hirsch's are nothing. What is this look? That's an interesting look that she's got. Oh my god. She kind of looks like a inquisitor, like a magical inquisitor. An unending line of heroes throughout history. Let's bring your epic back to life. A man has appeared. She kind of looks like a magical inquisitor, like some sort of like floating wizard. Kind of looks cool. Listen, if they make hair playable, that looks kind of fun. So they could make hair the actual first like staff character. Oh, bro. Even hair looks better than the other two. That's how you're supposed to use pink and purple. Yeah, to be quite frank, I do agree that hair looks fucking amazing. Oh, what's happening? Are you taking those consciousness to be like the fragments of the core, like Joyce? Actually, I really vibe with the look of her hair right here. Kind of floats around just like an Aponia, but actually uses uses a staff, and it kind of looks really nice. It actually looks really good, I'd say. It's like that, it's just not a staff, but more like a marching flag that all the European war armies. Yeah, sorry, I'm just using staff to simplify it. It's like a battle standard, right? I think that's what it actually is called, a battle standard. Mustn't be among them, it must be found. Oh, what the fuck? Green, well, he had a blue sword, didn't he? Red. I hope it's the blue one, right? Ah! Oh, it was, okay. Nice. This is kind of a cool fight, a lot of mechanics. What do we... Oh. Just punched him in the face. Bro, relax, Project Bunny. Just absolutely clonked him. Now it's time to use your full strength. Oh, we got our weapon. Oh, wait a minute. Can we... Obtain a mecha shield that blocks damage. Fully restores Star Radiant's power and unlocks its weapon seal. Oh, so each guy that we kill is an upgrade. Like, it upgrades us a bit. Oh, that's kind of nifty. You get stronger as you do this fight. That's actually really nifty. Oh. That's kind of weird. Is this the is this weapon like the one, her new one? Is this like an actual new Hirsch of Reason build? Like this is not like a weird gimmick. They're not using like the super old stuff. I've never used this weapon skill with her. I kind of want to jump in her ult, I guess. Do we have the drifting bike? I don't think we haven't used this outside of the training ground. How do you use it? Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, dude. I want to get this character now. I just want to do this. That's fucking cool. The next solo you need to fight like mechanics have to counter? Really? Okay. I'm liking the fight though. It's not like super intense, but it's like you have to think about it. It's a pretty good fight so far. I thought I dodged, but whatever. I'm liking the fight because it's quite methodical. It's not super high intensity all the time, and it does have like rather important mechanics, right? It's kind of what I'm enjoying about the fight right now. My man's walking. Oh, he's got a red thing? Oh my god, she's doing mechanics as well? Oh shit, what the fuck? Oh, he like does it like a teleport thing. Oh! Bro, this is kind of... This man's absolutely juicing, bro. This... The hardest enemy Mihoyo's added to Honkai in a long time. And it's a random fucking guy with a sword. It's a random guy with a fucking sword. A switchy engine driver! Oh, we juiced him. I think only in this boss do they give you a real set. I can't remember all the other ones. Shit. No? This is an entire life reserved for Project Stigma. Tokyo drifted. Oh, drive through. Get absolutely smoked. No conversion, but a full throttle strike instead. Oh, bro, can we turn the brightness down, please? Can we turn the brightness down? Fuck. You can use your own life records as your own strength. You can only preserve and reproduce them. That's such a good looking character, actually. Although a bit on the wacko side, a bit of wild. It is a rather good looking character. What the... Zowardo! That kind of felt like... Bro, when the screen gets desaturated and goes slow-mo, it's just fucking the world. Zowardo! As reluctant I'm to take back what was given, it's something we're all familiar with. Do I do anything here? Hello? Am I meant to do something? So she's using 300,000 false ideas to trick the core's limitations. That's right, it seems you've caught my weakness at this time. But such weakness is easily remedied by serving as the key to a counterattack. She looks really good here. It's full on, it's detailed, but also like full. It's a full outfit. Before protesting about the history and glory of the Herrscher reason is nothing. Don't get it. The best proof is you yourself. Of course I know my limitations, but how could it be otherwise for generations of Herrscher reasons? Didn't do much damage, it took me 50 minutes plus the sword. Oh, that didn't it? The sword guy you just fought counters my range target every 10 seconds. Oh. Odd. He counters and deflect my charge and doesn't take any damage. Oh damn. I have no idea then. Maybe hard mode is actually easy mode. I know your past, I understand its meaning. I don't want to hurt you, I just want to win you. Oh sorry, I just want to win. You don't have to put everything together. What the fuck? Bro, is that fucking Madara Uchiha over here? Just fucking just summoning a meteor from the sky? Samsara. Oh, Bronya's got an ace up her sleeve. Time to face reality. Wake up to reality. Oh, it's happening? Oh my god, it's happening! Whoa! Oh, does she just get speared right through the head? Oh, that would be fucking badass. That was a cool. I would have liked a bit longer of a transformation. That would have been a bit. Would have been cool if that was a bit longer. Okay, that was a cool transformation. The winner has been decided. An unorthodox armor was reflected in Hare's eyes, a type of power that belonged to the future. To understand and materialize, the Herrscher of Reason used to utilize this authority frequently, but it could not achieve the complexity before her eyes. Just like the past Celine, this wasn't a power that could be fully understood by the user alone. But this time, the girl was not overwhelmed. She felt joy. What kind of power could rival all lives recorded along the land you had traveled? Metamorphosis. She knew the answer, but it was the first time she had witnessed it herself. She felt that her past regretful self had gotten the answer now. Not only can humans change stigma, they can even change Herrschers. And this brand new power naturally represented another thing. I will retain their past even if it will cause them to lose their future. This was an answer that someone had given before. I want to give them a future even if they will not have a past to remember. This was an answer that someone had given before. I want them to broaden their future, even if it means sacrificing my present. This was an answer that someone had given before. But these answers that chose the lesser of two evils were not the ones that gave Bronya help just now. They came from the past that was interpreted after death and cannot win against the present. If a person can't accept losing something, then he does not actually possess the ability to protect that something. This was something that Bronya had once said. In that instant, she recalled Joyce's final goal and also Joachim's starting point. This finally made her realize that legacy was something that validated an existence through disappearance. The past is but a storage in the end, a mirror. Only the future can win against the present. The 300,000 thoughts that belonged to the Herrscher of Reason were only the remnants of history. They could not resolve all unknown problems. When we expand time and space, this logic was incredibly obvious. Willing isolationists could not understand the changes of the Industrial Revolution. Brave Zulu warriors could not win against the merciless fire of a machine gun. When civilization stalls at a certain point in time, it will lose its ability to win against the future. And to the Herrscher of Reason, if those 300,000 thoughts were not consumed, if the metamorphosis was not complete, this authority would not be a power that can fight against Project Stigma and God's Adam. Oh, there's the picture. There's the iconic, iconic picture. Let's take a cheeky screenshot for that. The thumbnail of the when this is highlighted. Took two for some reason. In the swaying grass, a senior she had greatly admired. The beginning of his legacy appeared before the girl's eyes. In the past, that was not an existence that she and Joachim knew they could not catch up to, but still insisted on getting close to. Now they finally fought side by side. But as those 300,000 thoughts were consumed by the metamorphized core, this was also the last image that the other had left in the world. I'm sorry, to achieve tomorrow, Bronya has subserved the past that you've left behind. But Bronya does not have any regrets as the Herrscher of Reason. After all, the only inevitable truth about humanity is that humanity's truth will change inevitably. Talk about complicating it for no reason. As usual, the other party remained silent, but this time, he smiled far more than he did in the past. Bronya is very honored to be able to carry your legacy. The Herrscher of Reason has never been a simple part of history. Starting as one of the 300,000, everything about it is reborn in the present. Victorious over all from the past. Maybe because it's hard mode, you get higher damage output, but yeah, no way I can deal damage even half a bar. I can only do a quarter at most. Ah, okay. Always choose hard then. So, oh, she's in the game. The winner has been decided. Having responded to her comrade's concerns, Bronya looked towards Hare again. The defeated was exhausted, but not discouraged. Did you do this deliberately? Looking at the character a lot closer, probably this Bronya is probably the best fucking designed character. She's actually looks so very, very good. You don't know what? You want to know why this Bronya actually looks really good? I don't like her in her ultimate form, I guess. Sorry, I'm just gonna get through this really quickly. I think it's just like the head shines. You know, it doesn't matter. It just looks good. Do you do this deliberately? Oh, what do you mean? Bronya did not answer her immediately, but felt her own Herrscher core. Compared to her companions, this metamorphosis of hers was so successful that it seemed miraculous. One must crawl through the darkness before being born, just like the foolproof strategy that Bronya had thought of before the battle. You also completed your objective, right? Oh, you still remember what I said whimsically. It sticks well, doesn't it? Bronya was simply given an example. Like the meaning behind this phrase, even though you're an enemy, you've also been giving the Bronya the right guidance, deliberate or not, rather. And it builds up to the present situation. Don't flatter yourself. Built a situation where I lose painfully. I'm not who I am from more than a decade ago. I don't have such weird interests. Do you know about this yet? I'm the second generation Hare created by Project Stigma. Strictly speaking, I'm not the pitiful and detestable existence that you saw in your memories. By speaking of which, I'm actually a little curious. How did humans manage to do something similar? Do you mean condensing the Herrscher of Reason's core again? You've long received acknowledgement from those 300,000 thoughts. It's not strange for you to be able to do that. What I really mean is, you did not erase any remaining fragments of consciousness left in the core, and that's not an authority of the Herrscher of Reason. You did not go so far to achieve this either. Did you remember all 300,000 thoughts with your own will instead of through the core? Or the Herrscher of Reason's core sensed your will and automatically did it for you? Bronya's own experience, I'm afraid the latter is the closer to the truth. Frankly speaking, Bronya didn't consider so much back then. If the Herrscher's core has a specific capacity, then to carry the ever-increasing past to walk towards the future, Bronya can only make herself into another core. As for what happened after, I merely went with the flow of the Herrscher of Reason. Bronya feels that they've taken another form to become a part of Bronya, and following Bronya's change, they will adapt to the future as well. Is this what we call hindsight? You don't have to be humble. From what I know, your metamorphosis is far more successful than the other Herschers. 300,000 thoughts. Even if there was no active will, there's enough to break down any human's brain, much less changing their form of existence. But that's you, Bronya. Thank you for letting me witness what it means to be the Herrscher of Reason. Although this victory may seem like a coincidence, you're an indispensable part of it and made it absolute. Just as I said before, if you see this as a stage clear game, all of you have definitely cleared my stage. Let me make it clear, I don't have the power to reverse Project Stigma. Neither does my sire. But at this point, I'm too ashamed to stop you anymore. Oh, Fuhua's up. Anyway, I think it's because of the color palette. Color palette right now isn't something I'm mentioning. I'm also mentioning the spread of design. Look at Herrscher Flameson. It's just I'm gonna keep on harping on about it with again, don't want to say the character because this is gonna be uploaded as a clip or as a full thing, but it's just a certain characters thing. Just there's nothing on the legs, thus makes the design of the outfit purely condensed in one area and makes it look very flat in other areas in terms of design fidelity. This Herrscher Truth Bronya looks very like spread out. See, if you just look at the legs, if there's something there to change the texture, it's really good. Anyway, let's continue with the story. Bronya, what was that just now? Is there something wrong? I'm afraid there are a lot of things wrong, actually. I can't understand what happened between the two of you at all, but Bronya is a complete Herrscher of Reason now, right? The girl took a quick look at herself, but didn't see anything special. Yes. Thinking back to the previous time a similar situation occurred, she subconsciously looked at her side. After recondensing the Herrscher core rather, she created a new mechanical body for her comrade. Project Bunny floated silently. It was incredibly different from the past, yet it also seemed like nothing had changed. Change is the only constant. That was also the key to her victory just now. Alright, let's help. Bronya Onechan, dude. Sealy comes out of nowhere. Just look, it's like Bronya has the plating on her arm, dude. That's the part that I'm talking about. It's just, it just makes sense. I'm so glad you're safe. Thank you, but how did you... Oh, it was the one who called her over. You all made such a big fuss but excluded me from the fun. That's not very appropriate, is it? Senti, there's no time for jokes now. We still have plenty to do next. You're awake. Long time no see, Kiana Bronya Sealy. It's been a while, Fuhua. What about me? You've given us a great deal of help. I'll be sure to thank you personally later. Nice. Regardless, everyone who you reunited recomposed themselves and exchanged about their individual circumstances. Perfect, it's time for me to report my situation too. Firstly, as you can all see, Kevin has already left the moon. Since he did not encounter much trouble, he left to execute the next step of project. Of course, from his perspective, we're the ones to decide if we'll become his next enemies. The next step, you say? Isn't it obvious? Kevin can't care less about this place. He stayed temporarily only to flaunt his capabilities to us. He isn't someone who dawdles. Do you know Kevin more than I do? She didn't want to bother with the fruitless argument, and so she turned to Fuhua. In that short moment of eye contact, they ascertained something that was read between the lines. I think that Kevin wanted to find something from all of you. To do so, he continually obstructed you to test your wills and abilities to battle. He put in a lot of effort, but he went easy on us. He even told the Herrscher of Sentience how to return to Earth on his own accord. Isn't he looking down on us? Though I'm not exactly a team with you guys. I knew that I couldn't win against him then and pretended to surrender. That guy probably wanted to present himself as magnanimous and told me a few things regarding the moon in detail. Like the influence that Stigma Away can have on space, trapping Herschers in a bubble universe, and how everyone can use that bug hole. You mean wormhole? Yes, that place you guys fought at earlier. It used to be a stargate that the moths used to travel between the Earth and the moon, but unfortunately it was destroyed before finality descended that day. But that popsicle did leave some words behind, like something if you use the Herrscher Reason's power at its full potential, a mere moon cannot imprison Herschers. Looking at you, what are you trying to... What are you going to do? Are you going to try what he said? If we dare not try, then the world's end will step on us all. Something about getting the thing going. Present Bronya is much stronger than all the past Herschers of Reasons. Some anonymous information. Unimportant information for now. Oh, congratulations, Bron, you just fixed everything. Nice. Bronya becomes even better than Feng Hong down. Shame on Fu Hua couldn't handle 50k. True. Well done, Bronya. That's magic! You really aren't pushing yourself this time. Bronya keeps her words. I'm speechless. This is actually my first time seeing it working properly. Mobius and Arto were in charge of building this. Yes, they were. But what happened? What about the people in New Atra? That wreckage of finality can't be repaired. The girl hesitated. She was worried about Sora and Lyle, but we should trust Klein, and given the state Earth is in, it'd be safer for Sora and her friends to stay on the moon. I think that's, I think she's made robot. She's a robot. Fuck, it's so hard to read. Oh, I hate reading. She's a robot made by World Serpent, but she's good at everything. That means she found it. Oh, nice reference. I got to know Klein as a person in World Serpent. You can trust her. We'll fight on Earth! Wow, is everyone ready to go back to the future? Take back your future from Kevin and finality. I'm honestly, I'm struggling to read right now. It's a struggle. Is that the actual teleportation sequence? Do we have to put our hands in the middle, or can we just teleport? I see. Hatching, is that what you're really after? You're beginning to understand me. What the fuck? The fact that you do not force Bronya to watch the last memory proves that you are no longer the same existence as that jinxed crystal. Her past experiences, pain and envy, those are like someone else's emotions now. You can no longer fully empathize. In fact, even your disappointment in the Herrscher reason is merely a pretense. But it is because you didn't have enough motivation that you ironically gave it all during that fight. Don't put it that way, you make me sound like a weirdo. You're really not intending to tell her that part of the story? Regardless she's involved in it, she has the right to know the truth. When all has become history, when all conflicts are ended, if I have the chance, I'll tell her. But I absolutely cannot do so before she starts to fight. Dr. May phrased it well. The nature of humanity is to sacrifice oneself for something else. If the reason she picks a fight with me isn't related to the Herrscher's authority, but for more personal feelings, then she would not have found an absolute strategy. She can only borrow her companion's powers to defeat me. In the end, you're still so prideful. Well, that's something only a human would think of. The program you're made of is getting better. For some reason, her tone was cheerful yet concerned. Because of that, Prometheus held herself back. Back on track, from the very beginning, you've already wanted to make sure that she would be the final victor. Is it that weird? After all, I need to give my past self a clear answer. The curse that she left behind has finally turned into a gift now. Isn't that great? I do understand a little now how your past self could keep peace with that Kevin. Ah, fucking hell. Venice is no more. The great Greek islands have drowned in acceleration, but it's the having, not the keeping, that is the treasure. The difference between having and keeping. So then she suddenly realized that the hare's blatant interest in hatching seemed to refer to something else. Yes, regardless of anything, I have nothing to do with Project Stigma now. Be it the Herrschers who fight for humanity, or to Kevin, or even to a particular Grey Serpent, we're more suited to be mere witnesses, no? At the same time, under the same night sky, that lone and dim blue light was calling out to another person on his way back. Now, as Project Sigma advanced, the Earth had not only evolved into an unrecognizable form, but it had also been continuously fusing itself with fiction. In that home that had once belonged to humans, the disciples of the Serpent are relentlessly taking all nutrients in sight and infusing them into this foreign star. All things restored into unity, this is the definition of embrace. But among those disciples, some who had once announced their imminent appearance of spiritual Adam were missing. And the one with a serial number 1904 had just received a small favor. Satisfied, he gazed at his hometown from the moon. Caring for children is still much more interesting than fighting. He had said something similar before, but spoken again now. It had a different meaning. Or rather a new revelation. Of course, through Project Stigma, you can use others for your own cause. But if you want the kindlings to illuminate the entire planet, then you'll have to do more than that. Is everyone secretly against Kevin? That's what I'm kind of getting from that. Everyone's just secretly against Kevin. Nobody fucking likes that man. Is that the end? Alright, that's the end. Okay, cool. Is it? We didn't get a chapter complete. No, we did. Okay, that is the end. That was cool. That's cool. The transformation, they didn't glamorize the transformation as much. I was expecting a lot more glamorized transformation, something like when she literally becomes the Herrscher of Reason. I don't know why they didn't do something like that. That would have been a lot more cooler. Because like when Bronya becomes Herrscher of Reason, like in what, chapter like fucking 7 or some shit, or chapter 12, it's like, it's a fucking pretty cool cinematic. But this transformation into like a completely different thing, the Herrscher of Truth, just kind of felt like, oh yeah, she put on some armor and did like a Power Rangers kind of like T-pose as the armor like latches onto her, and then that's it. It kind of feels like a bit lackluster. But that was cool regardless. A lot of information there. Albeit 90% of the information was just about Hair's past, which I don't believe will have much relevance in the future. I don't want to diminish Hair as a character. She's kind of like, throughout the whole chapter, she becomes pretty good. But, not overly important. I think of the translators for the new chapters having to think of 1 billion times to deliver the right words. I also just kind of think they could just not use that many words and it would be a lot better. You know? Like, not to really try to diminish, not to diminish the kind of, the writing of the game, but it's like a lot of the stuff they like they kind of repeat it like 4 or 5 times before they actually get to the ending that certain point. So if they're saying some point, they'll just say it like 12 fucking times. Like, oh yeah, Bronya is now the Herrscher of something this. Oh, Bronya's the Herrscher of this. Oh yeah, Bronya is in fact the Herrscher of this. And it's like, I don't know. And that's just a vague example. I think the transformation will be next patch, if I'm not mistaken. There will be a CG for it. It makes sense to put it there though, no? Oh yeah, the next patch is, I guess, when Herrscher of Truth is out, so... yeah, you know what, fair enough. If it's when she actually launches, that's also fine. It would have made sense to do it there, because that's when she actually transforms it, but maybe, like, in the next patch is when she gets named the Herrscher of Truth. Like, that's when she actually adopts the name. Well, that's cool. Listen, this chapter was really cool. The first act was fucking boring as shit. I'll be honest with you. Act 1, boring. But Act 2 and 3, kind of a lot more interesting. Albeit very drawn out and a lot of convoluted comparisons and examples of information. It's just a lot better, pretty much. That's pretty much the whole point I'm gonna point out. But yeah, again, like nothing's like super sticking to like information. Because what the biggest bit of information is the reason that Bronya transformed is because she stopped looking up to the 300,000 memories and just looked at them as good people and just looked at them as equals, and essentially, right? And then also at the same time sacrificed them, right? That's the 2 reasons why that transformation happened. Not to say that's really a lackluster reason or something. Enter the Stargate opens. What do you do here? Oh. Don't do that. Not that that's a lackluster reason, but like, I think, I don't know, it just feels like, it feels like a slight cop-out for that to be the reasoning. I don't know why. I don't know why that just feels like a slight cop-out for her, like, oh, you just have to not look up to them. Yeah, maybe it's just me being pedantic. But, now that we have free reign to talk about visuals, Herrscher of Truth Bronya actually looks really good. I just don't think I like her official art. I think it's that official art that they, like, put out, as like the cover art for the like the banner or whatever. I don't know what to call it. But her eyes look very weird there, and she's got the super high mechalization that I just don't really vibe with. But her as like a single character with the spear out, I think actually looks really good.